Where?
Well, in a second it'll pop up.
Oh.
If it
There it
still
goes.
isn't working.
Setting up your
It
meeting.
said like unable to do. Okay, here we go.
There we go. No problem. All right, good morning, everyone. It is 9 o'clock, Thursday, February 27th, 2025. I will call this Board of the Harbor Commissioners for the Town of LaPointe to order. Meeting of the Board of Harbor Commissioners for the Town of LaPointe to order. With us this morning, we have Michael Collins. Here. Evan Erickson. Here. Myself. Present via Zoom, we have Glenn Carlson. Cal Linehan and Robin Russell is in attendance. Staff present, Katie Kisner and Lauren Bertot. First up on the agenda is public comment. Go ahead.
Robin Russell. Just a reminder that customer patience and understanding of the rate reduce of the 2025 rates is turning frustration. You know, calls from visitors, especially campers, contractors, bidding jobs, group tour operators, event organizers, and couples planning a wedding. If new rates are approved at the meeting on, like today, will there be a special board meeting, town board meeting to approve the rates?
System routing due to traffic.
That would be a Glenn question.
Right.
Did you hear that, Glenn?
No, I couldn't hear, Robin was standing too far away from the mic.
Maybe I'll finish this and give it to you.
Sure. The question at hand is, will there have to be a special town board meeting once the Harbor Commission approves the rates? Like we would recommend the rates to town board and they would approve the final?
Yeah, and, we just had a town board meeting, a couple days ago, so we'd probably have to call one, for early next week. Monday or Tuesday next week.
Because after the rates are approved and they're sent in, it's still up 30 days.
Right.
So, there's gonna be pushback and, some input from customers, both locals and visitors, about the new rates. Is the Harbor Commission gonna have a statement talking about why, the rationale behind?
Yeah, we'll put it in the Gazette, which is being written as we speak.
Okay, but we need something for, people who call or a place.
We can script the people are on.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And our boat crews will need it too.
Essentially, the rate increase is to make up for the need of revenue for the capital projects.
Well, that's true, but it needs to be, where do we, send people to discuss this, or how do we disseminate the information? So I mean,
We'll try to script it so they get the information on the spot.
and the last thing is, just to clarify, that's probably because, I just haven't been listening. Has the 2025 schedule been approved?
I believe we approved it at the last meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's right.
And I shared it with Glenn, which I think he probably passed out to you, the draft. Okay,
Yeah, we've got it right here.
Okay. And then when does that go up to the public?
You can put it-
The schedule,
You're gonna put that in the Gazette?
the schedule, you can put it up whenever you want, I would think.
Okay, but I meant formally, we just have to send it in to Roz, get the draft, get the rates on there, and then printing, that's gonna take a couple weeks.
Oh, I see.
Right.
I mean, it's okay to share with the public now.
I would think so. I would think it could be put on the website and. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more public comment? Let's move on to the minutes of the February 20th meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes. February 20th.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chief Administrative Officer's report.
Yeah, so I have the current balance of the Harbor Commission bank accounts. This is as of Tuesday, the 25th. The Mickle utility checking account is at $537,944.58. The February revenue as of Tuesday, obviously not much coming in right now. It was at just under 77,000, which is about 80% of the budgeted income for the month.
Wow.
That's
Um,
amazing.
Just a reminder, it still doesn't include any sort of parcel. hauling or
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. I did meet with Robin to discuss, how they've previously filled out the, just the Wisconsin water carriers, the annual report, basically reporting the revenue. So I did go over that with her, so I'll be filling this out. This is due April 1st. Is this something that will need to like come through the Harbor Commission and be approved before I send it off? I'll obviously go over everything I have with Robin, just have her look over it, but
I don't know if we need,
I don't think we need, we just see it,
a review would be a
review,
good
yeah.
idea.
but it's not approval before sent. That's not,
okay. Okay. Just checking.
yeah.
Robin has a question.
Robin,
Okay, just to clarify, that report goes into the Railroad Commission.
right.
They look at their budget and they look at all the railroads, plus us and Washington Island Ferry. And then they, do a weighted average to figure out how much we have to pay. And then that's the basis for the bill that comes in September.
Okay.
And that money is used to support the department.
That's how they get paid.
So I'll make sure I get it right.
Right.
And it's divided between intrastate, which is within Wisconsin, that's what the payment is made on. Interstate, which are people coming from, or packages, you don't pay the railroad commission for that. I mean,
Go ahead, Glenn.
This might be a good time to raise the fact that I have reached out to Mike Halstead for him to confirm that the questionnaire, the census data report, that is crucial for our getting ferry boat program funds starting next year. He has not been able to confirm that as of yet. So I just want to raise that, and hopefully Robin, Cal, file that, and we are going to have any problems with getting very good funding next year.
Boy, it's hard to hear.
Yeah, you were a little broken up there. Did you?
But he's breaking himself too much.
yeah, I had talked to Mike Halstead and Glenn, and they referred me to, Mike Halstead is like retiring.
Yeah.
In a couple months, and so they referred me to April, who is in contact with this National Ferry Operations Census. And I have it on my desk, I filled out half of it, and Cal has supplied other information about the boats and things like that.
Do you wanna
I should
come-
have it done by next
Do you want to come to the table so it's easier to hear Glenn?
Yeah.
Or so that it's easier for Glenn to hear?
Can you hear Glenn?
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you were breaking up just a little bit ago. Now it's better.
Okay. Well, again, someone needs to take complete ownership of this because it is crucial to the sustainability of our operation.
Glenn, I was just explaining that, you and I had talked to Mike Halstead and he put me in contact with April, who, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure if she's a person that, manages that project or just a person in the know. But I have the National Ferry Census Operation, Ferry Operation Census on my desk. I was waiting for Cal to provide some information, detailed information about the boats, the fuel usage, hours on the engines and things like that. And I should have it completed by early next week.
When is it due?
When is it due?
April 1st.
And
So
will
we-
you see to it that Katie gets a copy of that as soon as it's filed?
You can get a copy of that as soon as it's fine. Or
Final?
Final.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Go back.
Back to you, Katie. I guess you can stay if you'd like.
Okay.
And then the only thing else in my report is I did include the reports for January.
Yeah.
That does include, the Miffles monthly reports for commission. Which kind of the main thing I noticed on that was that there was a vehicle damage reimbursement for January.
That was from like October. The vehicle was damaged, I think, in October. We didn't send the check out till January because we require the customer sign off that they're not gonna come back for any additional money.
Okay, was there like an accident report or like a
Probably.
write-up written
If you
in
tell me,
October?
is it like
It was like
2441 or
Yeah.
214 or 2014?
2400.
Yeah, I can get that to you.
Okay, thank you. And then just there is some more information about the Bayfield Wireless. I'm assuming that's why the bill or was a little bit higher for the Bayfield Wireless canopy in January
Right.
from the work that they're doing. And then I'm not sure if you guys want me to do this or not, or if you would just prefer to review the like budget versus actuals on your own. I do have like a few areas highlighted that we were over budget. It's also something I'm just happy to talk with Miffle about. Whatever's easiest. The majority of the categories, I feel like they will balance themselves out throughout the year. There were some line items in our budget that we had like a total number for the year. So we just kind of divvied it out per month so that those might not line up just right, but I think those will eventually line up. And I will provide a copy of this to Robin as well.
I thought about overages, things that pop out to you. The first thing to do, I would think, would be take that to Robin.
Mhm.
And so you get questions and answers, and if there's issues of some sort, then they can come up to us.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds logical.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah, there's, all those reports are included. Let me know if you have any questions.
Some of the things I noticed in the monthly report is that there's some capital projects being done that were not approved in the budget. Such as the pedal replacement and generator install in the Bayfield. There's a generator rewiring on the LaPointe that wasn't in the capital projects list at all. Lighting upgrade and electric heat upgrade in the Madeline. And the electric heating upgrade in the Island Queen.
Were those all projects, and that would be a question for Cal, I'm
Yeah.
assuming, but are those all projects that were delayed from?
They were taking out of the budget until we figured out our revenue.
Would you like me to comment on that?
Yeah, because the deal that we made when we approved the budget was that before these projects would start, Miffle would come to the Harbor Commission so that we could figure out how we were gonna pay for these projects, since we didn't have when we approved the budget, we didn't have the money in the budget for those projects. And right now, according to the capital projects list, there's $50,000 in capital projects being done.
We're gonna have to think about a way to pull it back someplace else.
So, what I was under the impression of was that, I made it very clear that I can't just not do these projects because this is the time of the year to do them. So, that was what was brought up was, hey, we're going to do these projects. And I was told that we will, come up with the funding. I'm not doing a $300,000 project. These are all projects that are under our, limit. They're each one individually is under 25,000 in the components of it. But ultimately, as you said, there's really nothing as a major expenditure going on. This is really day-to-day projects that we're doing. If you stop these projects, the boats will shut down. It's as simple as that. I mean, again, something that you're bringing up, such as the wiring repair on the LaPointe, that was a total of maybe $600-700 spent. I'm putting that in there because you requested, me to tell you about the day-to-day, and that's kind of the whole point that I was hesitant about bringing up, each maintenance item for this reason, so that it could get torn apart by the Harbor Commission and scrutiny. The fact that I'm maintaining the boats during the time in which I can maintain them for the upcoming season is what I'm hired to do. I'm not spending excessive amount of money. These are smaller projects. And frankly, if you want to stop these and hold this process up and wait for meeting, these boats will not be ready to operate when comes the time. So the impression that I was under is I brought them all up multiple times. I said they need to get done. I'm not doing any major projects, I'm not spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm doing what we need to get done for the upcoming season before it's too late. So if I misunderstood, I misunderstood, and I can, of course, stop these projects at any point. But when I come back and say that the boats aren't fit for service, I guess that will be the next step.
My question, Evan, is how did you determine that these particular jobs were capital expenses?
Well, they were in our capital, when we were doing the budget, it was listed in the capital projects, and we ended up taking that money out.
Got it.
Because the budget was 1.3 million under.
Okay.
But
Go ahead.
I thought we're really talking about two different things. One, I think, the work that Cal's talking about needs to get done.
it does.
And the issue that we're talking about is balancing a budget throughout the course of this year. And this is one of those things we'll just have to make adjustments as we go, but work that's necessary like this and falls within the purview of LLC, going to get done. It's good that we can see it though. Thank you for that.
I have a comment. I think you made the point earlier, Sue, that these weren't actually capital projects. These are repairs and supplies. Okay.
The language is
The
all
language,
understood.
right, yeah, and then we put things that needed to be done under capital, but capital
It's
is.
a misnomer.
That's right. Our language isn't clear on that.
And the other thing is that, and we talked about this earlier, is those petters, they're over 50 years old. And they have to be done because once they go, there's no parts. And that boat is down, is out of service until, and that's part of that wiring, if I understand it right, Cal.
100%. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. Yes, as we're starting that project. Yes.
Right. And we're just lucky that they're still operating.
I think that,
I mean, that's where, I mean, I feel that you asked for maintenance. We're doing hundreds of things every month. I tried to condense it down to some of the more pieces, but yes, I can't just stop these things and continue operating the boats. There's kind of a limit there. So I will certainly notify you of any large projects upcoming, which again, I have nothing planned that is a large budget item. If I do have those, what my hopes would be to put a large budget item, especially something exceeding 50,000, in the month before we start it. So you'd see that upcoming project proposed, $200,000 for paint, so that there'd be time to review it before we start.
Thank you. That's good.
I would only suggest that the reports come in separated out so that if there's a maintenance and repair bunch of stuff that's not supposed to be considered a capital expense and be separated from those other things, there isn't half the argument.
I think for ease of access and review, I think we sort of consolidated all the boat projects together into one lump. And
Yeah, I
But
think
Robin's point's good though.
Yeah,
Sorry, Cal, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and that's really what, I mean, every one of these projects is really a necessary project. I mean, the only one that is not necessary that I've recommended was removing the wheelhouse off or the passenger cabin off the Island Queen and redoing that, which I put in there, I think is at about like 300,000. So that one's very optional. We can continue operating the Queen like that indefinitely, but everything else that's on there labeled a capital project it's regular maintenance, and some of it is preventive. We're replacing the pedder before it breaks, but that's, again, we can't have the option of waiting until the pedder breaks, July 1st and having our primary, 26 car boat down for 2 months in the middle of summer because of that. So again, how it gets classified as capital versus maintenance, I'm just, the whole point of the capital project list was to make the Harbor Commission aware of what is needed to continue, the ferries operating in a preventive manner, such as paint, new generators, engine rebuilds. Those are all necessary. There's very few items on that list.
everything's necessary. But maintenance versus, immediate, those are two different things.
I have one question, and this is not like our opinion. This is not just Cal's project. These are Coast Guard, because Coast Guard will not let you operate if the pedder goes down, because they're not.
Yeah.
Right.
You're preaching to the converted. I think we really are covering the same ground. We do want to be able to identify the difference internally here, just in our own budget, between capital improvements and maintenance. That's all.
But I think it's a difference between, necessity and
Yeah.
and longer term deferrable.
And that's-
Deferrable might be the better word.
Maybe.
And that's, again, what I sat down with the budget committee to kind of assess, but some things, can you hold off on the paint a year? Yes. Are you damaging the hull by doing so? To some degree, yes. It's that trade-off. I mean, everything that is on that list, essentially aside from some few minor pieces, are maintenance. It's just whether it's preventative, and again, what are your risks of a failure? And that's where, the number that we got down to, which I think was almost 400 or 500,000, was the critical list. That has to happen this year, and about 300,000 or 400,000 was offset for next year. But as was brought up in that budgetary meeting as well, there was several things that didn't get done last year that got brought forward to this year as well. So, I feel that I've done a good job at outlining and moving to next year what we can move to next year, not taking care of what I've outlined that has to be done this year, could lead to shutdowns.
Yeah.
Excuse me for a moment.
I think the main takeaway is obviously costs are a concern. We have made concessions to raise this extra money through these increased tariffs that we're looking at currently. So that's it.
Yeah. Good point. Thank you, Cal.
And thank you for providing more, and I don't know if you wrote this or Cal, but more of a breakdown for
Cal.
those maintenance updates in the monthly report.
Cal and maintenance, Ethan did it.
That's a help.
Yeah. Good job.
I'll make a motion to put Katie's chief administrative report on file.
Any discussion? Aye, or all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, Harbor Assistance Program update, grant update.
I think everyone hopefully got a copy of Cal's email.
Yeah.
Letting us know that we're going to have to come up with the $800,000 upfront on this project. And if you want to talk about an unbudgeted capital expense, that's a pretty significant one. And I know Cal thinks that we can just go and borrow money. That's not that easy. I think actually, and we would have had to do this one way or another. It's just that the information that we got when we got it, we could have potentially done something like increase the tax levy. Now we can't do that. We have very limited options to not actually cause the town to not have. So I don't want to understate.
Can we, Glenn, is it possible for you to go off a video conference and just call in, because your audio is pretty hard to hear?
Yeah,
Okay,
and if you could repeat that, I'm afraid we lost most of it.
how's this?
Much better.
So, this
Oh, great.
$800,000 is significant. I think it's going to force us to take a look at the entire budget again. And I think, yes, we don't want the boats to not be able to run, but I don't know if, travel needs to be looked at. I think a lot of other things need to be looked at. It's not just that easy. And Cal seems to think that we're going to get 30-day turnaround on reimbursements. And I think that that's wishful thinking at best. And so, I've got to work with the town board who did approve asking for another $8,000 from our numbers. But that brings us extremely close to our debt limit for the town.
Yeah.
If anything were to happen, we would be, public creek without a paddle.
Are there any other options?
I'm sorry, Glenn, I can't hear everything very well, but I believe I've gotten some of the gist of what you're saying. One of the things that I outlined in there was that if managed properly here, which I feel I'm on track to do, the greatest amount out at any given time would be very briefly about 500,000. I have it set up so that we start doing it in increments and getting invoices incrementally, paying the invoice and then requesting immediately repayment. So as soon as I can, get the first thing going out, I have about 150,000 that I can put out to bid, if not even a little bit more this week. As soon as we get the bids back, we can pay that immediately and request reimbursement. And so that it's, money out, money in, money out, money in, money out, money in. So we're not on the hook.
It's not that simple. I wish it were.
That's what Mike Halstead told me.
We need to sit down when I get back. We need to sit down when I get back and have a very serious discussion about this matter and what it's going to involve for the town to feel comfortable financing it.
We're going to be running into, especially if this project's in the spring, a serious cash flow problem. I mean, we've already borrowed from our Bremer line of credit, and we've already borrowed from the town in order to make, to keep finances up spring. So yeah, we're definitely going to have to figure out how we're going to make all this work.
And I will point out to everyone that the management agreement provides that if budget requirements are such, we will stop all capital expenditures. So your 50,000, your 25,000 goes out the window. And so I think we need to really take a good hard look at how we're going to manage this project, where the money's going to come from. What we do if the government decides, oh, they're not going to fund this anymore. There's a lot of things to consider. It's not that easy.
Okay, so this is an offline discussion that happens immediately. It's like, what I hear here is that California, the 150, that's now.
Ready to roll, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to, or you and Cal, or you and Mipple, Glenn, are gonna have to sit down and maybe figure some of this out.
And that's again, so, the options I laid out in the email, which, Glenn would like to go over with me further. The options not laid out in the email are, doing it in fall, which is a, possibility. It's kind of the least ideal, but certainly gives us more time. It just has to be done this year. So we could, spring is the best time to deal with this, especially if waters continue to drop, to have this dock repaired and done, before the high summer traffic, because it'd be critical to have it done then. But again, having it done in fall is also, from the state's point of view, an option as well. But I mean, again, everything that I'm relaying here was provided to me from Mike Halstead from the Wisconsin DOT. I'm literally taking word for word what he's told me about reimbursement and options, and I've just passed them along. So
A question, Cal, on the reimbursements that Mike mentioned. You say here in your email, the typical turnaround time is 30 days.
he said that's the kind of long end, but he said, that would be, you can anticipate on 30 days.
All right. And that's pending if the state or federal government still has that money available. As Glenn pointed out when we were doing the blacktopping project for Black Shanty, that there might be a point in time where the state decides that they need to cut that line item, and then all of a sudden we're stuck with that bill.
It's possible. What I was told by Mike Halstead, again, I'm only relaying here. I'm not in the state.
Yeah, right.
Right.
But I was told that money has already been allocated and set aside. So once the paperwork is signed, the money's set aside. But again, that's just what it's already earmarked for this project. You're right. I don't know if they have the ability to pull it, but that's what I've been told, that it's once the paperwork is signed.
Cal, I don't want to flog you, but you were asked point blank, is this a reimbursement type project? Are we going to have to come up with this money ahead of time? And you said, after talking to Mike Halstead, I assume, no.
Yes, that is correct. That is why I sent the email, was because that was the impression. I asked Mike Halstead several times how the invoices are going to be handled once the bid is complete. And I was told several times that they were sent directly to him. So it was only in the recent conversations that I've had with him where that got more defined in the reimbursement method. So again, what I said was, well, I'm going to have to go back to the Harbor Commission and let them know that that was not the impression that I was under. And his words were, the Harbor Commission has worked with Harbor Assistance Program grants before. They should have been familiar with that. And I said, well, I told them, it was otherwise. That's on me. I was under that impression, based off of our previous conversations, that, the invoices would get sent directly to you. So again, I'm going off of the information that I have. I've clarified it with him in great detail at this point to get every last piece squared away before we start the project. But yes, you're right, 100%. I mean, that is the start of my email. I said that.
So what that means is you're going to help us figure this out.
100%. I plan to help figure it out either way. I mean, I wrote the grant. I've started the grant. I've been handling the grant. I have no intention of not helping figure it out. I may end up having the top board may end up having to pull the plug on the microgrid because of the match.
Glenn, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we can hardly hear you.
We can't hear you.
Still breaking up.
No, would it be better if you just called on our phone?
Yeah, I think
No,
it'd
I
be.
think I made my point. I made my point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. Glenn needs to sit down with Cal and maybe even Mike Halstead and hash some of this out. We're gonna figure out our cash flow situation.
Yeah, maybe tap April into the conversation. Since Baton seems to be going to April, maybe she gets called into the same meeting.
Well, should we move on?
Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn.
Sure.
All right, we'll move on then to student travel policy review.
We might not have to take a whole lot of time here on these, what's been written. We have a couple of suggested edits.
On our page.
Some of them are worth pausing and talking about among ourselves, but I don't think this would take too long. You wanna, Susie, how do you wanna handle it? In the cover letter to Dear Family. The first paragraph, in support of our students and to facilitate their travel, we will be issuing ferry passes to all eligible students. Is it possible to put a date in there? Some point in time when this will happen?
But we already issued passes.
Right.
And the younger ones, we're just waiting. What has to happen is the letter to the school first, because they have to give us a list of people
Yes,
and that kind of stuff. And then once we get everything from the school, then we can put a date in there.
okay.
We just need to make a space for it to indicate that.
Yeah, but I mean, it has to go in sequence.
I'll send you on it there.
Yeah.
Just so you can-
And there are little things, I don't know if they need to be in there or not, that help explain the next paragraph on that same sheet. These tickets are used to get accurate passenger counts to be recorded on a ferry log sheet as required by the Coast Guard. I just think that for the family, it's not just a.
It's not just us making a,
It's making it up. It's a
Well,
requirement.
I know that's important.
So
let's put
thought
the
we should
Coast
put
Guard
that,
words in
edit
there.
this.
Oh, I see, it's not.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. and We
No.
couldn't take that much time on it,
No, that's fine.
but it's small stuff. Okay, that answers the main question on this one.
I had, one other question is there a school season start-stop date on these passes? How do you know when a senior's graduated? Do they get their pass pulled? Or, in the summertime, they're using their passes in the same fashion? And it wouldn't really be,
The school is supposed to notify us when students are in or out, because
so we
during
will
the,
have a school
Don't have a
period.
date.
Right,
now, they don't have a date, okay? But, the school is supposed to notify us if someone's been registered or going to homeschool or on some other program.
true,
That doesn't always happen.
true. But do you collect these passes on the last day of school?
No, because they will be used during the summer.
They will do summer.
Yeah,
Yes.
they also have the years on them, the passes do.
Okay.
Something.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
exactly
Cal.
what I was gonna- That was what I was gonna say, is that specifically why we did put the year on each one, the school year 23, 24, 24, 25, whatever, was so that these passes can't just circulate out and end up, good for life. So
Right.
the worst case is the pass is only good for one school year.
Apparently, yeah, lots of kids have lied about their age and their
Yeah.
school registration for years.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's a lot of kids. It's,
No, kids
there's
think so.
a number, and the crew is very sensitive to that and tries to do the best they can.
okay, then this is the cover note to the school district.
Right.
I think
We had no problems with
no
that.
real clear, no problems in the fact that we can move on to the actual attachment. I thought this was really well written, but it divides everything up into easily digested, understood categories. We had one comment question at the very bottom, student pass bonus program. Just everyone can take a second to read just a couple of sentences. The town of La Pointe Harbor Commission will award $50 cash bonus to any student who presents a perfect pass. However, there will be a deduction of $5 for each trip during which the pass is not presented. Additionally, a $5 deduction will apply for any replacement of the pass. We got a little confused about that between
Defining perfection.
let me just see if this makes more sense. The town of La Pointe Harbor will award $50 cash bonus to any student who presents, who at the end of the school year has always presented a pass at every trip, or some perfect pass is just not clear.
Okay, Katie, you can pass
I'm-
that.
I'll send you-
Okay, and the other one is little words like, rather than deduction, we just put charge. So all I'm saying is these are tiny little edits, but
Well,
This
I
thing is
don't,
well done.
Yeah,
We'll pass it.
Leanne did a great job. She wrote this and, she's our editor in charge.
However, we talked about.
I like
Yeah.
I like the word deduction overcharge
Yeah,
because
me
the
too.
charge sounds like it's out of pocket and this is just a deduction
Yeah.
from the $50. So
Go ahead. and-
But then is the $50 a real award? Or is it just a, carrot and stick? Are they gold medals? I don't understand if they're participation trophies. Because any student who presents a pass, they'll just have $5 knocked off for each trip during which the pass is not presented. So basically, you're gonna charge them or deduction if they don't have a pass that day. But on the other hand, you'll give them back that same $5 at the end of the year.
No, you
No.
won't.
They get less money.
it comes out
Well,
of
they get
the,
less money at the end of the year, but they'll have already paid it out too.
they're not charging, it's not an out-of-pocket cost, it's a deduction from this carrot stick as you.
And it's a manual process to keep track of this.
And I don't,
That was my question is how.
yeah, I mean,
It's part of our ticketing system. If you have a charge account, say like Superior Plumbing comes over here
Okay,
and then they charge to Superior Plumbing by George, who's whatever. And so there's no shap, no card, okay? No chaperone, they get charged. If a transaction goes to no chaperone, and then it's by the student's name. No card goes to no card by the student's name.
Mhm.
But that is something we have to manually,
right, and I can see where you need to keep track of that stuff.
well, and I am sure there will
Postcard.
be students that are in the hole. I
You
mean,
think? Yeah,
well, if there's only $50, that's 10.
10 times.
10 operating.
But most of them are very, very good about it, and they're apologetic if they forget it. So I mean, and with the K-5 students, those passes will be the responsibility of the parent or the person taking
Mhm.
the little child over.
should that be extended to the elementary kids that aren't?
Well, we have to keep track of them on boat, okay?
Right,
So we-
right. I just meant the $50 bonus, like for the kids that go to the
No.
Point Elementary.
Well,
I don't-
because I don't think
I think it's
so.
the kids that
That's
travel on their own.
incentivizing parents, is what you're doing.
I think it's the parents of the ones that go into Bayfield
Yeah,
would be our preference. I mean,
okay, we'll pass these on to you, just.
Thank you.
They're small. Thank you. It was very well done.
Yeah, between, I think Leanne and Katie and Cal, they did a good job clarifying. A long project.
Or are we in agreement that once those minor edits are done, do you want a final review before it gets sent out?
I don't think we
You
need.
can do that.
I'll make a motion to
What do you
approve
think
the student travel policy documents pending the changes that we discussed.
I can second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye,
I,
opposed? Motion carries. Number 8 on the agenda, consideration of a short-term loan from the town.
How much was this loan gonna be for?
oh, Glenn, are you there?
I am.
Yeah.
How much is our short-term loan with the town gonna be for?
Well, it kind of now depends upon this 800,000 and, probably end up having to borrow that from the town as well. So, I mean, it could be, I can see that it could be close to $1 million.
Shall we table this until we can revisit the grant funding and
There's no immediate need for money right now, is there? No.
Well, yeah, the discussion with Cal is gonna be important because of the grant process and carving it up, but we've already decided that. The next thing is gonna be a conversation with Glenn and Cal.
Mhm.
I will move then that we table this until a later date.
recognizing that there's some urgency in the schedule.
Oh, did we get a second?
No.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2025 tariff discussion and possible approval. We want to table this as well until we have a chance to meet in person.
I'm fine with what was sent out. You know, it's obvious that we're taking Robin and Dell's advice and lowering round trip passenger fare as much as I think we can down to 10.50, and at the same time raising the vehicle trip fare. This one other thing to point out, this does provide for a 17% across the board increase for all of the ones that were not specifically addressed. I know at one point we were looking at a 20% amount. You'll look, if you see that, if you have that chart, it shows you how much we gain or lose from every 1% change in that rate. You'll see it's very minimal. So, you know, we can cut that down to 17%, which, you know, I think maybe optically looks better. Anyway, thank you also, Evan, for all the work you did. It's almost a work of art.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have to go in this in depth again. What is this, version 3.8?
Yeah.
I'm looking at line 7, I think it is, it says compact. And in theory, that would be the smallest car that you would see.
That's a Meg card. That's a yellow card.
That's also a Mag card.
Yeah, compact is the yellow discount card.
Okay.
Under 17 feet.
Well, that part should be spelled out, is what I'm saying.
We didn't change any of the descriptions.
Well, there is no description for compact except compact.
Yeah, no, that's just
We should
compact
probably
car.
put that in there. We should probably put the under 17 feet in there.
Yeah,
And to be truthful, that is not a compact, but it's under 17 feet.
Call it
Compact is
subcompact.
like under 16 feet. I mean, cars.
Call it subcompact.
Well, no, I mean, they're already printed, the cards are, but I mean, I'm saying is that we call it a compact Mag card, but the car that it covers is not a compact.
Mifflin's version of compact.
Yeah, you get to decide it sometimes.
Is the issue, I've been working off of this sheet and making. Is this the final representation of what we could approve right now?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Can we run down just for a second here, I'm just referring to this table over here, it sort of shortcuts the conversation.
Yep.
That's passenger full fare at the top.
Yes, that is the revenue for passenger full fare.
Okay,
Because you look two lines down and then there's the passenger Mag card revenue.
and to move all the way over to the right-hand column, the round trip rate, that's an increase, I'm assuming of.
The number we're gonna go with, I think, Glenn, is the numbers that you have in there, not the RTR revenue, correct?
Okay, good. And those numbers, where are those numbers? Make sure I'm
That's
looking at the right one.
$10.50. Yeah, that's $10.50 each way.
Yeah.
for
So this
regular.
is the revenue that Robin
Yep.
was going
Yep.
off of, and this is what our proposal is. So, you know, we stick at that 41%.
Talk about.
Revenue for full fare passengers were, they were at 39.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Okay, so the dollars aren't here, it's just percentages.
It's just, that's just to kind of break down how each category affects
All right.
or the revenue.
Yeah.
So it-
Okay, so what I got, the last one I got was,
Yeah, this reflects the substance of our discussion last week. I just wanted to go over that to make sure it does.
didn't get it. I like that.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the tariff rates, for the 3.8 that Glenn has come up with.
The sheet.
What column is that
The
in
sheet
the
that's in front
spreadsheet?
of
Yes,
And what
that's
column?
right.
What column is that?
That is the 2025 estimated rate column.
What email?
I'm looking.
Okay.
Thank
Because I
you.
don't.
Okay, I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I think it's so.
All in favor then?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
right.
Request a special on board. meeting.
Glenn will work probably at forming a special town board meeting to approve these tariffs, but I think you could probably get going on putting those into the letter for the railroad commission and getting ready to send that off.
Would you agree, Glenn?
I would.
Good.
Okay, last year Glenn did that, sent that in.
Yeah,
Or
I think you guys had formulated the worksheet that we.
We have a
sent, yeah, so Katie and I would need assistance in putting that together.
Okay.
But yes, I was the one that sent it off.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yes.
Okay.
we can just have all that together and ready for send off for when the town board approves the tariffs.
Yeah, that's.
And then I'm gonna assume that the railroad commission usually doesn't have much questions when you send in tariffs? Or do they usually?
They have to have 30 days and it can be open to comments. They can take comments from anyone, the public, and they can bring an issue and they can say, we don't like $9 rate for passengers, okay? So they can use that input from customers.
Does that get published then, like in the local paper, that it's available for review, or how does?
We have never published anything. I don't know. I don't think it's like that.
It might be because we're now public.
It might pay a little different attention. I don't know.
Yeah,
No, but as a private.
you wouldn't have had to, but you
I-
might have.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, with
we'll
this, you
discover
can
it, that's all.
let these contractors and tour groups know about, about what the rates are gonna be pending railroad commission approval.
Yeah. That's,
And, speaking of the railroad commission approval, you might want to take a look at the last year or two's submissions. I think Robin mostly wrote them. It really asks for, what you're doing in that is explaining why you had to raise things, as much as you have.
Right, yes, every year when I wrote that letter, or the old Ferry Line wrote the letter, he would write, state of the economy,
Yeah.
the,
A covered document.
explanation.
Puts it in context.
but I mean, that will be the.
Well, I think Cal can write in there about the projects that we have going on and the revenue needed to pay for those projects. And boat upkeep and maintenance and just general increase in everyday costs of everything,
Debt service.
debt service.
Yeah, I think I'd lean heavy on the debt service.
Yeah.
And, and I think if, Collins wanted to work with Cal on that, that would be great.
Okay.
I guess since we're still talking about it, one question that I had was the demand pricing for mag card rates. Is that something that we'd want to include in the submission to the Railroad Commission? So we have it in our back pocket in the event that we need to pull it out
Well, I think
late season?
with the railroad commission pricing, that's our limit that we can charge for. We can always charge less. And so with what Glenn and I discussed is that if we come into fall and we're finding that we're hitting our revenue goals or above revenue goals, and we see that we can lower meg card rates, then we would go ahead and do that. We don't need railroad commission to permission. to do
Right,
that.
right. But if we don't include it as a
Then
surcharge,
you can't go.
then you'd have to resubmit the paperwork to the
Yeah.
railroad commission.
That's fine.
That's
I know.
Now I know you got it.
I don't know the answer.
But a refund's not a surcharge.
No,
You're just asking.
like for the submission to the railroad commission. It's always been in there in the past, the peak or demand pricing, I forget. what-
Right, low and high, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Well,
whether,
essentially what's in here is the high.
Right.
okay,
And we would go lower if we see
If
that if we're able to afford it, we would go lower with the egg card rates in the fall and have that
Okay,
off-season.
so you're saying the ceiling's covered.
The ceiling's covered, and we can always, if we can go down in the fall, if we see that revenue allows for that.
okay, I like that answer.
Great answer.
We can always lower, we just
Yeah,
can't
no.
increase without going. with
Right,
Right,
that's
right.
good, that's helpful.
Next up is the review of the Miffle management contract.
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session under state statute 19.851E.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Have a roll call vote for this. Glenn?
I